Hello, and welcome to Sports Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. My name is Dirk Keller. Right here's Bob Boyd.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Yeah.
Over there is none other than Patrick White.
Good to see you again.
Pat, great to have you here. And
Don't make you mad,
always,
he'll have you in court, too, that guy over there.
Nah. Earl Murphy. For 23 years, Earl's been here in front of the camera. For 23 years, Joe Murphy has been behind the camera and making sure that everything works right. So here we are again. And, well, gentlemen, I guess we can't help but start the show out talking about Iowa football.
Yeah, we're still here. We haven't been...
No.
We're gaining.
Yeah.
I guess the long-awaited answer to who will be the Hawkeye defensive coordinator has been released. And now we know it's Phil Parker, who's been with the program since Kirk Ferentz came here in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Former Michigan State player. I believe he also coached at Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken.
Played for Norm Parker at Michigan State.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And no relation to Norm Parker.
No.
Go from one Parker to the next. And in addition to that, Kirk also shuffled the coaching staff a little bit. He moved Darrell Wilson, who's been here for 10 years and has been the Iowa linebackers coach for that period, is now the defensive backfield coach. And on top of that, he took former West High football coach Reese Morgan, who's been with the program for 12 years. He came a year after Kirk began. Reese is now defensive line coach. He was the offensive lineman's coach. So now we have the other mysteries. Who will be the offensive coordinator? Who will replace Ken O'Keefe? Who will be the offensive line coach?
Any rumors?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, that obviously makes the Brian Ferentz rumor makes a lot more sense as the offensive line coach than it did on as defensive coordinator.
Yes.
The linebacker spot is an obvious fit for LeVar Woods, who wasn't mentioned in the release yesterday.
Which I thought was interesting.
That was surprising, wasn't it?
I'm assuming that that's because affirmative action has not gotten to the end of the review of the candidates yet. That's the only explanation. Begin coaching, and some of our recruits this year have even said, well, I met the new defensive line coach. And LeVar, of course, was a linebacker, both at Iowa and in the NFL. So that's a much neater fit for him as a linebackers coach.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's got a lot of people puzzled because they've read comments from the high school seniors who have signed their letter of intent, which would have been a week ago today. And they were introduced to LeVar Woods, as Pat mentioned, as their defensive line coach. And they were also, some of them, introduced to David Rye as their new quarterback
coach, who's been on the staff for how long now, you think?
3 years?
Well, he had a
grad assistant thing,
couple years gone. He was a grad assistant, and then he went to UCLA
and Southern Cal, right? Didn't he coach
at
both?
No, I think just UCLA.
Okay.
And then he came back.
Oh, Joe. Thank you. Is that an early Valentine's gift?
Ted didn't want to come on camera.
Oh, that's sweet, Joe.
We love you too, Joe. Yeah, David Rye's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, he is.
I think, at least I can speak for
Well,
Earl.
he was on the team.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was a walk-on quarterback.
He played the quarterback. He didn't play, but he was a quarterback on the team. Pat, this is a question I couldn't get an answer to. Did he go here all 4 or 5 years? Did he leave the team a year early and just quit playing?
That I'm not sure of. That may be.
Does that ring a bell?
Right. I mean, it was
that I don't know.
He was not going to get any playing time. But I think it's also been clear since he's been here that he was interested in a coaching career of some sort.
See, didn't he go into the financial world when he graduated and tried that and decided that he wanted to get into coaching, right?
Was it financial or was it medical equipment sales?
Maybe that was
I think it was medical equipment sales. He did well.
Yeah.
Worked hard. We all have heard him speak at the Monday Morning Quarterback Club luncheon several times.
He does well.
And I know Earl and I got to meet him, and he's just besides a personable young man, everything that we've been told is that he's a very bright young man. We know that he's a very hardworking individual. Rick Neuheisel can attest to that. The former UCLA head coach had David Rye essentially camp out on his doorstep and had no choice but to give him
a hire,
a job. Yeah. And it was a no-pay job at UCLA, and he worked his way up. And then for reasons I can't remember, he wanted to come back to Iowa.
Well, I think he's a Midwest guy. I think he wanted to be closer to home. Wasn't he originally from the Minneapolis area?
That rings a bell, yeah.
Well, he had an opportunity then to be, a grad assistant initially, right?
Correct.
When he came back here and then got eventually into the staff?
Yep.
There are new questions that come up because of the announcement yesterday. I assume we'll find out more. There's a press conference. We're taping at noon on Wednesday, and Kirk has a press conference at 4 o'clock. It'll be interesting to me whether Phil Parker participates in that and the media get a crack at asking him questions and whether there's any additional announcements. But if David Rye is going to be the ex-coach, that probably means that somebody else has got to double up because there's a limit on how many coaches you can have. NCAA
and Ken O'Keefe had been the quarterback's coach.
And Ken O'Keefe had been not only offensive coordinator but the quarterback's coach. So somebody, and Lester Erb would be the logical person to double up in some other way. There's even some thought that maybe they won't have a tight ends coach. They'll combine tight ends with all receivers. But somehow, if there's going to be a designated quarterback's coach other than the new offensive coordinator, they've got to somehow double up the size of the staff.
That's right.
One of the puzzles that is hard to follow, but is true, that you can move Reese Morgan from offensive line coach to defensive line coach without jumping through all the affirmative hoops. But if you got a staff vacancy that you're going to fill, then you've got to advertise, go through the university's existing affirmative action policies, and that takes a little bit of time.
Is that, Pat, do you think that's the same at all public universities?
Well, each one has their own policy. I mean, the basic law is you can't discriminate in hiring. Most public institutions have some form of affirmative action policy, but each one differs.
Pat, let me ask you this in regards to that policy. Switching to another sport, Ryan Bowen decides to leave for the Denver Nuggets. In a very short period of time, the replacement was there.
Well, it was
a couple of weeks.
A few weeks.
Isn't this policy a 30-day deal?
That's what we've been led to.
And what I've read in the past in reference to your question, Bob, is that sometimes they can name an interim, if you will, or a temporary.
I see.
In lieu of that hiring process, and justify it by saying we have an ongoing need right now.
Yeah.
He or she will fill that position.
An emergency bypass of policy, and in that case, the vacancy occurs in mid-season, and clearly there was a fairly immediate need to try to get somebody up those duties. So again, nothing was. He wasn't introduced as the interim video coordinator. Nothing was said about a policy waiver. So we just don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, an immediate need would be probably
the thing that gets me is
the opening.
They transfer what's the West High coach?
Reese Morgan.
He goes from offense to defense. I get a kick out of that.
Well, you know, one of the things that you do in, I think, any organization, when you've got the opportunity, you look at the possibility of different utilization of your existing staff. You talk with them about their own interests. And, I mean, there can be a variety of reasons for that. You could be somebody on your staff is just a little would like to do something different. Or it could be, let's just hypothesize here a little bit, that you're thinking You know, the defensive line is an area of need. It's been a little down the last couple of years, and maybe we need to take our veteran, experienced, knowledgeable of the program offensive line coach who sent first-round draft picks to the NFL and have him elevate our defensive line. There's some good offensive linemen who are coming back, including some who really haven't played much yet, who are really very highly thought of. So whoever picks up that spot is going to have personnel to work with. Whereas defensive line is going to be a trial next year. Some of the incoming freshmen are going to get a shot at it. A young man by the name of Darian Cooper from DeMatha, who didn't play at all this year, is thought a real candidate to start. You never know.
No.
Plus, who knows how to block a defensive line better than the offensive line coach?
Well, that's
Good,
exactly
very
right.
good point.
Plus, he also, I mean, people have questioned that move. You know, you guys have seen it, I'm sure, on the internet and all that. But that's a great point that Pat made about the experience that Reese has, and we all know he's an excellent coach.
That's right.
But the other thing, too, is he also the personnel that's on the team that hasn't had an opportunity to play that might fit some of those defensive slots, whereas a new coach coming in would know that personnel as well. So,
One of the things that'll be interesting to see in spring practice is whether there's anybody who's been an offensive lineman who gets switched to defense.
Hadn't thought
there
of
you
that.
go.
Reese takes with it.
That's the whole personnel thing.
Yeah.
Now,
I hadn't
luck.
thought about that.
let me ask you guys this. There were rumors initially that Phil was going to be the defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden that stuff went away. And there were other rumors of other people. Were any of you surprised at that change?
Well, I wasn't. I thought all along
Okay.
Phil was the logical choice, and the question that I had was, why has it taken so long? And I think the answer is, and Kirk hinted at this the day he had his recruiting press conference by saying, we think by next Wednesday, HR will let us announce something.
Okay.
He was kind of vague as to what it was, but he clearly sent the signal that it was not him that was holding things up. It was the university's human resources administration, policy, what have you.
So God knows how long it'll take for the
Well,
offensive
and that's
coordinator to be named.
what I was going to add here is now the only problem with moving these people around, we've still got 2 vacancies, as we understand it. 3 vacancies if you count what we think is LeVar Wood's slot.
Linebacker coach.
Spring practice starts the 24th of March.
Yeah.
And if you go into the same timetable that it took to announce Phil Parker, which is almost 5.5, going on 6 weeks, that takes you into spring practice.
Sure does.
Unless they're on the staff, it's not going to affect them in one way or another because
But
they're already
that offensive
technically in
coordinator's
place, maybe.
important
Yeah.
because you need to. Well, all the coaching vacancies are important to have in place by spring practice.
Yeah. What about the rumor about the wide receiver coach Campbell coming over as offensive coordinator?
Well, personally, I think he's the logical offensive coordinator.
Same here.
He was the assistant head coach for Lloyd Carr at Michigan.
15 years.
Before they sent the whole staff packing, and we picked him up. And
Is he married?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I see him by himself at a lot of basketball games, but I don't know that.
That's a good question. I have to look
And
it up. I'll bet Joe Murphy could look that up on the internet real
The
quick.
media guide always tells you,
Yeah.
if you can, and you can look that up online.
HawkeyeSports.com, Joe.
So an offensive line coach that
Yes.
we need to hire, don't
Yes.
we? Any?
Well, that's where
guesses?
Brian Ferentz rumor fits.
Yes.
It was, I don't know.
It sure does.
He's 29. He's also rumored to be well enough thought of by the Patriots that he's in line for more responsibility there.
They were talking about him getting much greater responsibility with the Patriots because they have lost now their offensive coordinator who went to Penn State.
Right.
and I think they lost at least one other, the Patriots, either to Penn State or somewhere else. So Brian was being talked about as a possible offensive coordinator for the Patriots, and that's pretty amazing. Yes, Joe?
What exactly do you want me to find out?
We were wondering if you could tell us whether Eric Campbell, the wide receivers coach, is married with family or not. Joe is amazing. He is Mr. Answer Man.
He's not only the producer, he's the researcher.
That's right.
He does it all behind the scenes.
So, where were we?
We were talking about Campbell and
Yeah.
offensive line and Brian Ferentz.
Yeah, so Brian is well thought of, and we know here in Iowa how good he was at center on the offensive line. And if you paid any attention, you know how well thought of by his teammates he was, as a, if you will, a line captain when he was here.
How about the head coach?
And then there's the head coach.
Yes.
We think he's staying. Right?
It'd be pretty neat to have Brian back, and I think that would really make Kirk and Mary feel pretty doggone good.
Well, and wouldn't that also help us from a young man coming on our staff, that as far as the recruiting aspect
I would think.
as well?
I can't see anything wrong with it.
Well, and assuming LeVar Woods is a coach, that's an advantage to him. David Rye is younger.
Yep.
And LeVar
That's
Woods is just beloved by the players.
He's a very sharp
Yeah, very nice
and
guy.
very active in the community.
Family man. I've worked with him a little bit on some Fright Fest activities.
But
Great guy.
One of the discussions that was out there is going to still be alive, which is Tom Herman, who's on the staff of the New York Giants, who's worked with Eric Campbell for a long time up at Michigan, so they know each other well.
But he was the defensive.
He was with the Giants. I don't know what he did at Michigan.
He was a linebacker coach for the Giants.
He was
Single man.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe Murphy. Another single man. Yeah, I thought Herman from the Giants might be the guy. Just, you never know.
That was rumored.
You never know. And
maybe it's also time to bring in another Iowa high school coach. Reese has been on the staff, was it for 12 years now?
12 years.
Rumors that, there are rumors that, he's close to retirement. Reese is, 63? And maybe he wants to coach a year or two or three, who knows. But it'll be a loss when he does move on.
Yep.
Yeah, he's done a good job.
Well, we'll learn a lot more. We hope to learn a lot more after 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's 7 o'clock now, your time. But we taped this show early before Kirk's news conference this afternoon. Learn a little bit more, we expect.
When's that program come on?
4 o'clock is the press conference.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you won't be able to watch it live unless you got a computer and pay some money. And
There are a couple people who go to those press conferences and do what's called live blogging, which I'm expecting the
Tom Kakert.
Big Ten or the university will put a stop to in the not too distant future. They get around the live broadcast by sitting at their keyboard and trying to type a summary of what they say.
Yeah.
We'll know by the 6 o'clock news. I wouldn't think any later.
I'm not expecting that we'll learn a lot more today.
Yeah.
As much as we love Kirk, one of the realities of his press conference is he never says too much.
No. It'd be,
He's
That's
really
right.
skilled at
I was going to say he's very good at nothing.
He's
very good. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll
And if they're not legally in a position to announce that they've got a new hire, they'll probably talk about Phil Parker's defensive philosophy, and
They'll dance around a little
that's
bit.
about it.
Yeah.
But to answer your initial question there about March 24th spring practice, don't you think everything will easily be in place by then?
Has to.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll easily be in place, but that's the goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, never a dull moment.
That's 6 weeks, guys.
Yeah. Earlier, Pat mentioned Lester Erb, who's been the running backs coach, among other positions here.
Special teams.
And special teams. He was just named one of the top national recruiters in the country by
Really?
Rivals, which is
Wow.
the company that Tom Kakert works for. His website is owned and operated by Rivals.com. And they named him one of the top recruiters in the nation.
Wow.
And that's, yeah, which leads some people to speculate that he may be the new offensive coordinator.
Now, how many people did they name in that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Did not see that. Just saw that he was one of the top. I don't know if it's top 5, top 10. I would assume top 10.
Okay.
But he's very well thought of, as is Eric Campbell, receivers coach.
I think the truth is we have two pretty strong candidates already who are offensive coaches.
You
To
know,
be the coordinator.
one of the names out there, besides the 2 in-house candidates,
Yes.
is another former Hawkeye, Jay Norvell. He is the co-offensive coordinator at Oklahoma for Bob Stoops.
That's right.
The only difference is they like to run a spread offense at Oklahoma. And I can't see Kirk doing
And a power play with their quarterback.
that. Yeah, I like that. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's right.
So it's a rumor, but he makes big money down there. And that's another thing. Offensive and defensive coordinators, they're making $500,000 here
Market's
and there.
going up.
Wow.
Greg Madison of Michigan is being paid $700,000.
Wow.
Another former Hawkeye's
Which-
dad.
Will tend to set the market.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
He's
sure.
still playing pro ball, isn't he?
Greg?
Yeah.
yes,
Who's he with? Jets?
the Ravens. isn't it?
Ravens. Okay.
He's
That's right.
moved to offense and playing
Yeah.
some center, some guard.
Yeah. Speaking of that, how'd you all enjoy the Super Bowl Sunday night?
Tyler Sage there on
How
that
about it?
Giants team, huh?
He was in on special teams.
It was
Yeah.
an entertaining game.
Boy,
Yes.
right down to the
Wasn't that
last
a good
play.
game? Wow.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how a couple of plays make
Well,
all the
Hail
difference.
Mary didn't miss very far. And if Wes Walker, who's a terrific receiver, led the NFL in receptions, if he holds the ball that skids off his hands, the Patriots probably win the game.
Yeah.
You could just feel it coming. They had 58 seconds, I think, to make something happen, to go the length of the field.
And that's not enough time.
That's enough for Brady.
And Welker dropped it on what, the 20-yard line, Pat?
He was between the 20 and 30, as I recall.
Okay, so then they'd have had a first, 4 shots at the end zone probably?
It wasn't an easy catch,
No,
Bob.
Yeah,
it'd been
yeah.
a tough catch.
Yeah,
But
it was up and kind of behind. It would have been a tremendous
sort of catch that could have been made. And Hernandez dropped one that hit him right in the numbers.
Yeah.
But you know, the old cliche is in football, if you get your hand on it, you're supposed to
That's
catch
right.
it. I mean, any receiver will tell you that. If you
That's
can
right.
touch it.
One of the
Should be
things,
yours.
one of the things that was interesting is there was a pregame interview with Brady, and it may have been Bob Costas, I forget who was interviewing him, who asked him a hypothetical. At the end of the game, would you rather have the ball going for the winning touchdown or he said he'd like to have the ball.
And be behind.
So the hypothetical came exactly true.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
He's driving down the field and just it didn't happen.
Yeah, I heard that. I think it was Costas that asked him. Yeah.
Well, it was such an exciting game.
It was.
And I don't think any of us here really cared who won, although I was pulling for Tyler Sash. I can see why
Sure.
some people were pulling for Brian Ferentz and the Patriots.
Yeah.
But it was just exciting. That last throw was right where he, and that deflection, the big guy for the Pats.
Gronkowski.
Yeah, Gronkowski almost
He had
came
had
up
the
with
high
it.
ankle sprain. He may have gotten that ball.
Yeah, it was just timing. You know, he
Yeah,
wasn't
it is,
right
yeah.
where he needed to
Well,
be, but he
those
was
Hail Mary
close.
catches are luck if
Oh,
he
yeah.
just happened to be in the right play. I mean, you can't count on it when the game comes down to a Hail Mary
No.
pass, but it could have happened.
Sure could have.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. The Super Bowl is just a lot of fun. All the commercials. For me in my industry, it's my national holiday. You know, I get to see all
Yeah.
these new TV commercials.
Which one was the best, in your opinion?
My favorite was the Clint Eastwood Chrysler commercial.
That was good.
It came on just before the second half kickoff, and it was a 2-minute commercial, and I wondered for the first minute, who is this voice? I know it, I can't place it, and then I'm thinking, this is a really interesting that you don't see in a TV commercial. Who is paying? And in this case, a 2-minute commercial was $14 million, folks. Wow. Yeah, $3.5 million for every 30-second ad. Double that for a minute. Double that for 2 minutes.
Some of your stimulus money at work.
$14 million.
Well, I assume they paid Clint Eastwood a pretty penny to do
I
it.
bet they did, yeah.
I wonder, right there, that's probably $1 million just for the endorsement.
But it was a good
million here, a
message.
million there.
It was a great message, I thought. It was about basically Detroit coming back from the ruins, and there were just a lot of really good video shots that they used to emphasize their point. And then about halfway through the ad, you see Clint's face talking.
Yeah.
And then you still don't know who the ad's for. It's just a message about America coming back. We've been knocked down, and we're back up and on our feet. And then at the very end, you hear the familiar bed that they use for all of the Chrysler commercials. And then they come up the very end with each logo: Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And very nice.
So you're an advertising guy, but where they really missed the boat was at the end, when Clint should have said, "Make my day." Buy a Chrysler.
God. Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
While we're talking about the Super Bowl, greatest moment of the game for me was Ahmad Bradshaw trying to decide whether to score or not. It's a classic armchair quarterback coaches.
Seen it.
Yeah, couldn't get the brakes on, could he?
Yeah.
Do you go down rather than get in the end zone to leave Brady as little time as possible? And then you get to the goal line, and he couldn't make up his mind.
He turns around as he gets to the goal line, and he's wide open.
Yeah.
Falls in.
Right up the
priceless.
middle, and the sea parted for him. Now, what did you guys think as it's happening live? Did you think he's going to stop short of the goal and not get in?
I thought he was going to score.
I thought he was going to stop.
I thought he was going to stop.
I didn't.
No, that was second down, right?
Ugh.
I think it was. Okay,
I'm
so
not
then
positive.
if he just stopped
They
and he
had
had
ti- they
third
had
down.
time.
They had at least
Now,
another
what
play.
if then, on third down, they run the clock down.
Yeah.
Let's say they don't make it. Or
Well, suppose
so
Billy-
now we're going to go for a field goal.
Billy Cundiff misses the kick.
Yes. Can you imagine the criticism for they didn't run
But
in?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and get
when
the
Bradshaw got to the goal line, clearly there was indecision. Now you got to think.
yeah. Oh, apparently.
You got to think he'd been told what to do.
You think so?
Oh, sure.
Well, you got
Do you?
Yeah, I think so.
I heard
When you're
Eli
coaching-
Manning. He was not told in the huddle, and Eli, when he handed off the ball, supposedly told him, "Go down."
Really?
But it did not come in from the bench. That's what Eli Manning said on ESPN the day afterwards. So
That's respect they have for Tom Brady
Oh, absolutely.
and the Patriots.
And they didn't even see the pregame interview.
Yeah.
but you can imagine Bradshaw. He hears that and he's going toward the goal and it opens. You know,
You think they let him score on
the Red
purpose?
Sea opens up. You know.
That's another question.
I hadn't thought about that. I've thought in other games in that same kind of situation where they should let them score so you can get the ball back.
And he certainly had a huge hole.
And he turns around with his butt facing the end
butt
zone
first.
and just kind of falls back like he's going off
It was
a
great.
diving board. you
Remember
know?
that goofy Romanowski that was linebacker for the Denver Broncos for years?
Yeah.
They interviewed him about that. And he didn't have anything to do. Obviously, he's been retired, and he's a crazy linebacker
Oh, yeah.
in the olden days. And he said there's no way if they sent that in that we're supposed to let this guy run into the end zone. He said, I'd have tackled him. And then I'd have gone over to the sideline and punched the coach for telling us to do that. So, and you know what?
Oh,
I
my.
believe him.
Oh, I
Even-
believe
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well, football's over. It's all over.
Thank
no
God.
more football.
man, for 7 months we don't have any
Yeah.
football. That's it.
But it's basketball season, and the past week was a good basketball season, or good basketball period for the
Right.
Hawkeye men and women.
Yes.
The men won 2 straight games at home. First time they've done that in conference since I don't know when. A long time.
It's been a while.
They beat Minnesota at home, and first time they beat Minnesota twice in 1 year in a while.
Yep.
And then on Saturday, and I thought a very emotional game at Carver Hawkeye, they beat Penn State in front of the 86-87 Dr. Tom Davis team.
And they were fast breaking.
Yeah, much like Dr. Tom's
Yeah.
teams. Did you? Yeah, I know, Earl, you were there. Were you there, Bob?
No.
There's a certain emotional lift, I thought, that was in the crowd from the pregame ceremony to honor the team. The video is online. You can see the pregame ceremony when they introduced Dr. Tom and Bruce Pearl and guys like Roy Marble and B.J. Armstrong. My goodness, you know, it was really something.
Well, if you got there semi-early, they were packed getting autographs and
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah. Wasn't it nice to have Dr. Tom Davis back in the house again?
Yes.
Huh?
And he was emotional.
Yeah.
You know who else was there? Bump Elliott.
Yeah.
And most deservedly so. Sat there during the game with Dr. Tom.
I said, are you going to be a part of the ceremony? He said, no. And after I saw him the first time, I said, you lied to me.
I hope he was able to do more than just sit with Dr. Tom at the game, because he's the one responsible for bringing him in.
That's right.
And it was just a marvelous weekend. I know those guys had a great time. They came back. It just, you know, it couldn't have been any better, really.
Well, they had just about everybody back, didn't they? I mean, Jeff Moe wasn't there.
Jeff didn't show up, and he was supposed to be there. Kent Hill didn't show up because he had to work. And I think there was one other. Was Michael Reeves on that team?
Don't remember.
I think he was.
Yes, he was.
And I don't think he was there.
Yeah.
In fact, an injury to Michael Reeves is what put B. Strong in the lineup.
That's right.
That's
first
right.
time.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Good. That's good.
BJ, well, those guys were sophomores on that team.
And Michael would have been a senior, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he came here, I remember, out of high school, very highly touted,
Yeah.
and was going to be the guy, and never really was, in part thanks to BJ. But then the women went on the road and won 2 big games. Unfortunately, the one at Wisconsin, Jamie Printy,
Oh, boy.
and that was a heartbreaker. I know Pat, like me, was listening to it on the radio,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, 20 seconds to go in overtime. She goes up to get a rebound and gets fouled. And the way I remember the play-by-play description, it was a hard foul, and it was one of those situations where they had to foul her because we were up, I think, by 4, and had the rebound, and so they foul her. And
Boy, women sometimes look hard to play. They get rough,
oh yeah,
real
Oh,
rough.
it's a rough game.
well, Jamie's out. I hope she's able to make it back next year for her senior year.
But
It's
she's
a-
got a red shirt here if she needs it.
She does.
Yeah.
I'm sure she doesn't want it.
I'll bet.
Not very many women want to red shirt. They want to
Yeah.
play and.
How long is the recovery time on that normally, Pat?
Well, I think it varies with the nature of the surgery and the injury, but it's 6,
Right.
7, 8 months.
Right.
This is the same knee that she tore the ACL on when she was a sophomore in high school, and that adds to the rehabilitation uncertainty. You're just not sure.
At least she knows what she's in for.
Yeah, she's been through it.
And I had knee surgery when I was a sophomore in high school, ligament and cartilage, and that's one of the things, the great unknown. The end of this, it's not the outcome of the surgery, it's the rehab and the pain and.
Part of the shame for Jamie, and she's just a wonderful kid. If she was on pace, I think I've mentioned before, to be Iowa's all-time leading scorer.
Just last week we talked about it here.
Yeah.
Her season ends, she's at 1,409 points, and the all-time record is a little over 2,000. She's this year averaged 16.9. She's probably going to miss somewhere between 8 and 10 games.
Yeah.
Which would
Hopefully
have put
10,
her at
maybe
about
12.
1,600 or maybe a little above. So with a normal senior season, she'd have become the all-time leading scorer.
Yeah.
And again, you don't know what rehab in the future will hold for her, but chances of making that now are pretty slim. Not only is she a great scorer, but she leads the team in steals. She leads the team in assists.
What about free throws?
Free throws, she shoots a great percentage. I think she's winds up at 88 or 89%. And she gets free throw opportunities if you add Camille Wallin and Samantha Logic, the other people who play point and the 2 guard together. They don't get over 100. They haven't got over this year over 100 free throw attempts, whereas Jamie's at 125 attempts, making 89% of them.
Yeah.
She's just a huge, huge part of this team. And it all, I mean, this risk sounding like I'm going over the top, but I think if you go back in Iowa basketball and pick, say, 10 players, all-time Iowa players, I think Jamie would be in that group.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a huge blow. She's a floor leader too.
And becoming more of one.
Yeah, started every game of her career at Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
It broke my heart. We knew right away it was bad when we heard it on the radio, and they didn't mince any words on the post-game show that day. Lisa nor Brent Balbinot. It's a shame. But if there's a silver lining, they got Melissa Dixon back from injury that same game, and she played brilliantly.
Sure did.
So maybe this is an opportunity for her to step up and show that she deserves to be a starter. Maybe it's an opportunity for Thiara Taylor to shine. It's going to have to be.
Well, Dixon
Yes.
stepped up the next game and got 19 points.
Yeah.
She sure did. Made 5 out of 10
Yeah.
threes. And one of the things that was pretty remarkable about her performance is she missed 3 full weeks of practice, had been at semi-practice speed for a few days, and does this in her first game.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Sure is. Well, this team.
First start, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Iowa women's team has had a lot of blows, and this may be the cruelest of all, but hopefully there's opportunity that springs from it. They've got a big game tomorrow night, Thursday night. It's Go Pink, Wear Pink.
Yeah.
Wear Pink night.
Pink.
Is that a 7 p.m. game?
Yes.
It is. 7 p.m. There is no TV for this game.
Uh-huh.
It's against Minnesota. And then on Sunday, and we should back up for a minute. That game tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, no TV. You can listen to it on KXIC, 800 AM. And then on Sunday at 2 p.m., the Big Ten Network will have the Michigan State game. That ought to be a good one.
That's the Go Red for Women game.
Correct.
Tickets still available, by the way, at Midwest One Bank. When I talked to them yesterday, they were down below 500, so they've given away over 2,000 tickets.
That's great.
And you
But
can
there's
pick
still
those
some.
tickets up, Pat, at any Midwest.
Any Midwest One
Okay.
branch.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie Funk.
Yes.
And Sue Evans.
And Sue Evans, who
Yeah.
sits next to me at the Hawkeye games. They job of supporting Lisa and the
Yeah.
Hawkeye women's basketball team, and I think I heard Lisa on the radio yesterday telling us that this year's attendance breaks not an
Well,
all-time record, but at least one during
Last
her
year,
era.
we finished 13th in the country. Hope was we were going to push into the top 10 this year. I don't think we're going to get there. The team got off, it would acknowledge, to not the stellar we had hoped for.
Yep.
And I think we're running about 13th again this year. So
It ain't
it's
bad.
not impossible we could move up. But
Pat, where's Iowa State finish in that? Because
They're in the
they
top- they're
really,
in the top
it
10.
amazes me they really get good crowds over there.
They
as
do.
well.
they get students.
Yeah.
It's a mystery to me. We just don't get students who turn out for the women's games. Now, we did get about, I would estimate, 200 to 300 when they offered free ice cream cones. But most of them had left by about halfway through the second half.
Yep.
And very few of them have come back.
Well, the men have the same problem with their games. Students just don't show
Yeah.
up. Now, they did for the Minnesota game because they got free pizza, free T-shirts, free wigs, and other stuff.
Black and gold wigs.
But if you noticed, if you were
kind
at
of like
the
pay
game,
them to come then, huh?
well, basically,
Yeah.
if you noticed at the Minnesota game, by half those students were gone.
When I came in, I saw this long line of young people around the court, and I thought, what on earth is this for? And I followed the line around, and they had a big pizza warming tray
There you go.
on the floor of the arena.
Whatever. You know what? They did a great job at the Penn State game. They had another good crowd of students, more than I've seen for any other game other than Minnesota. And they they harassed that Penn and bench pretty well.
Yeah.
It
They
wasn't crude.
They were talking to him.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Penn State had a kid on their team that Iowa recruited heavily, Fran, a kid named Glover. And he got in the game and put up an air ball
Yeah.
right away. And they were on him the rest of the game. He scored 0 points the whole game. There was one other kid who was some kind of foreign exchange student on their basketball. And he had, I don't know where he's from. I don't know his name, but it was one of those hard to pronounce names.
Yeah.
And so every time he got in the game, they were chanting USA. It is what it is.
Well.
And I was
It's
wondering.
nice that they were there doing something, though.
I asked my son, why are they saying USA? And I didn't until after the game. I read it
Probably
online.
wasn't in the best taste.
No.
that probably
But they
isn't.
could have done a lot worse, and have, I think. in the
Yeah,
past.
most
It was
likely.
them back there, and with winning, they'll be back.
Probably.
Probably. The men they're on the road, and they only have one game this week, and that's tomorrow night. And let's see, that game is going to be on, it's one of those 8 o'clock games. It's at Northwestern, and it's going to be on ESPNU, unfortunately. Because a lot of people don't get that at home.
Yeah.
If you have a basic cable package, ESPNU, and I think there are at least 3, if not 4 more games on ESPNU.
Here was a strange aspect of Saturday that I still haven't read about and don't understand. ESPNU was being shown in the HD channels, 800, where ESPN2 normally goes. I actually watched the game on the 830, and I think it is 31 or 32.
Is that right?
Which is normally ESPN2.
Right.
I wonder if Mediacom locally
It may
flipped
have.
it.
Part of the confusion Saturday was the fault of both the Press-Citizen and the Gazette, because they reported the game was going to be on BTN.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Well, here's the mistake they made. What BTN was showing was the Penn State at Iowa women's gymnastics
Yep.
meet. So they just looked at this and saw Penn State versus Iowa, and both of them made the same mistake.
Well, and part of the other equation, the other part of the equation, is that these games are all available to view live on btn.com. And
Don't you have to pay for that?
you got to pay for it. It's confusing. The Press-Citizen yesterday, they didn't have, or was it day before? I don't know, one of these days this week, I was looking for the Regina game in the sports menu, and they didn't have it listed anywhere, and sure enough, they played that night. I had to go to the Gazette to find out that Regina was playing that night. And you know what? When I prepare these scripts for each show, it's really hard to find the high school sports schedules anywhere.
It's hard to find. I just wonder, has anybody ever seen the scoring of the Big Ten by individuals? Who's
No.
number one?
Oh, you can find it online.
Yeah,
I know,
but it's not in the
Not
paper.
like
No.
it used to be.
Yeah, they used
years
to do
ago,
that.
Murph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebounds and
Yes.
points.
Yeah.
They've made that fine print smaller and smaller and smaller to
Yeah.
where you can barely read it
Yep.
anymore.
Yep. Well,
I thought that'd be interesting if
Well, it's
just
very interesting.
once,
we used to follow that. We'd know
Yes.
who they top were in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
and when they came to town, you knew what to expect.
If you have internet access, you can find it on the
Yeah.
Big Ten's website. They list the conference statistics.
Yeah.
Speaking of men's basketball and conference statistics, I want to just talk again about Matt Gaetens, who's on pace to become. There's still games left and strange things could happen, but the first ever Iowa basketball player going back into the 1880s to lead the team in free throw shooting 4 straight years.
Really?
Every year.
Wow.
He's also going to become the 7th player in the history of Iowa basketball to lead his team in scoring for 3 years. The prior 6 being Dick Ives,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Logan,
Wow.
Dave Gunther, Don Nelson, Greg Stokes, and A.C. Earl.
Mm.
That's a heavy
Yeah.
company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just very, very impressive career.
And we need to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's such a level-headed kid.
Oh, my God.
Well, the unfortunate thing is, you know, wouldn't it have been nice if he could have made it to the NCAA? at
Hey.
some
Well, he
point?
still could.
There's
it's
time.
not
He's-
impossible.
He still has a chance.
Or there are three other, the NIT and
Yeah,
the two other tournaments that
That's right.
we've got a shot.
That's right.
we do have a shot at postseason.
Play in the Big Ten postseason tournament.
What a help
You
if
got
we'd
a
have beaten
chance.
Nebraska.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Well, they got to go to Northwestern tomorrow night, and that's been a house of horrors for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, we've
Yes,
had our
it
share of
is.
troubles there.
Oy, oy.
Yes, it
Princeton-style offense, right?
Yep. So, and
We're due to get them.
I sure hope so. And we get another crack at Northwestern, too, before the season's over, at home. We get another crack at Indiana, at home. We still have to go to Illinois. And we've still got to go to Penn State.
Penn State,
hmm
yeah. Well, we
So-
have 7 regular season games left, and then at least one Big Ten tournament
At
game.
Nebraska.
Hopefully more. At Nebraska, yeah.
I'm glad to see Iowa fast breaking.
Yes.
Oh,
Here's another interesting statistical fact. We are averaging 74, a little more than 74 points a game. That's the highest per game average in 14 years,
wow.
going all the way to the Tom Davis.
Tom
era.
Davis.
Sure is.
And isn't it nice to see that kind of basketball again, though?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And overdue. It is what it is.
Well, that's why the crowd is part of why the crowd's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
What
they
was
are.
the attendance on Saturday, the Penn State?
13,
Yeah, it was announced at 13.
which means more like 11, 12.
Yeah,
But they're
Talking about-
averaging a lot more fans.
We're
with
talking
McCaffrey
about
stuff.
There's another thing I do not understand. Well, I understand it, but I don't. Students buy season basketball tickets. The price goes home on the U-bill, and students never pick them up. The last several years, there are 200, 300, 400 student tickets paid for
Mm-hmm.
that students never pick up.
That I didn't know. Goodness.
Mm.
And those paid for get counted into that
Sure.
13,000 that get announced.
I can't
As-
explain it,
As
Pat.
do all the empty seats down in those new high-priced plush seats
Yeah.
that are
Oh.
half empty, even lately for the men's games.
Yeah.
They're, well, maybe half is a stretch, but 3/4 full.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not good to see on TV either.
I didn't know
Those
that.
empty seats.
No.
That's the price we pay for the way we did it, and for Iowa it was necessary. I don't have any issue with the way the university did it, to make those seats available to people who give at the upper levels,
I do have an issue with that.
but they don't come.
I think that they need to get those students around the court, at least at one end or at both ends.
That's
And they'll
You and
never,
me both,
they
brother.
won't do it here. And you
That's
want to
what's-
create an atmosphere, you give those,
but you got to
kids
raise
good seats.
you got to raise the money somewhere, and that's one of the ways they
yeah,
they
but
did it.
Pat, we're giving away tickets everywhere. I mean, you talk about raising money, but boy, a lot of product to get people in there. Maybe they wouldn't have to do that if they had a better atmosphere.
And here's what I don't like about it, Bob. Those same people that buy those luxury seats now, the plush seats, the cushion seats with the cup holders and
Yeah.
padded armrests, those are the same people that are selling their individual game tickets to opponents' fans. They were there sitting in the plush seats for Nebraska's game. They were there sitting in those plush seats for the Minnesota game.
Somewhere.
Some, right.
And at worse now is the athletic department, the ticket office has a system for you. If you're not going to use
Right.
your tickets, you let them know, and they can recycle them to somebody at the gate.
But these people, these big contributors who are buying those tickets, are selling them for a profit to fans from the opponent's team. Again, not all of
I
them.
think some of that comes from corporate America buying some of those seats,
Yep.
okay, let's
No,
say.
it does.
And then they have a customer that is a Nebraska fan, or he's a Michigan fan, or whatever. And so they'll not always sell them to them, give them to them to use, and there they are with their
Well, there were a
opposing
boatload.
jerseys and colors on. And
I don't like it when Nebraska fans are sitting in our plush seats. And I
Oh,
don't like the
no,
Gopher
no, I
fans sitting
agree.
there. I don't like any opponent's fans sitting there.
No.
I don't care what the circumstances are. I'm going hardcore on this one.
No, I agree
It
with you.
really ticks
Yeah.
me off, and I think it's a traitorous thing to do. I'm not going to mince words strongly.
But wouldn't you love it if, for example, you had a business with a corporate giant in Champaign and you could go use his seats with your black and gold on? You'd probably do it.
You
wouldn't
know what? I'd be very uncomfortable sitting there in those seats in Champaign.
Yeah.
You'd be taking all kinds of garbage from their fans because they're horrible.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I'd be really uncomfortable. We're too nice to the
I wouldn't want
opponent's
to do
fans.
names, you know.
No, heck no. It's one thing to sit right behind your team. You know, if you're the opponent, and sit right behind your team and their bench.
But getting back to the students, close to the floor. I mean, how many times do you see that on TV?
Michigan
These
State,
other programs,
Illinois.
Other programs, gee, guys, they
Well,
figure out how to
Michigan.
do it. They figure out how
Let's
to do
take
it.
Michigan State
Yeah.
as a comparison. They have twice as many alumni as we do.
Is that right?
And so
Sure.
their pool of people to contribute is twice as big as ours.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. And the athletic department budget is now approaching $80 million a year.
That's
Tuition's
a chunk
going to
of
go up
change.
again. And so it's going to cost, next year, it'll cost the athletic department probably $3 to $4 million more than it has this year. And it's just,
That's Iowa?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, is it going up something like, is it 7% or something like
well, it's
that?
going up a lot.
I thought I read 6.
You know,
So that money's got to come from somewhere, prices or the Big Ten Network or contributions to the foundation. Those are the only revenue sources.
well,
They're still
what
building.
supports the whole athletic program is the football program and the Big Ten Network.
And they got, as you say, they got a check for $20 million.
Yeah. And it'll probably be a little larger next year.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why you're now starting to hear rumblings that the Big Ten is a little more open to discussing a playoff than it used
Yeah.
to be,
Yeah.
because with a playoff will come more TV revenue.
Money, money,
Especially if, as the last week, we've begun to hear, well, maybe we could play the first round of that game on site at campus venues rather than at a bowl site.
Yep. I have no doubt we're going to get there.
There will be a playoff
Oh, yeah.
format.
Oh,
Didn't
yeah.
they say this present format is over in 2014? And they
I
expect to have another format, a playoff format. Would that be in year 2015 then?
Supposedly. Yeah.
think that's
I thought
Joe.
I heard that somewhere. Yeah.
Guys, we got about 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
I thought we'd talk a little bit about high school basketball. Girls' high school basketball. Regular season is coming to an end this week, and there's some big games. West High girls just destroyed Cedar Rapids Kennedy last night, and they are going to host a district round of the playoffs next week.
They're awful fast, aren't they?
Oh, they're everything. They're just dominant at everything.
And they've only lost one game.
They lost one game at Davenport Assumption,
Right.
3A, one of the top-ranked 3A schools.
Defending state champ from last year.
That's right. Let's see. Both the boys and the girls have earned first-round byes in there, and they will host the districts. Let's see here.
Didn't the West boys just win by a point last night?
Yes.
That was a little surprising.
Dirk will love this. The West girls have a girl who's signed to play at Illinois next year with Dirk's favorite school.
No,
Yeah.
which girl is
Bill
that?
Logan's granddaughter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very disappointing.
That's too bad.
It is too bad. The West High girls.
Hey, Dirk.
Yo.
Maybe they'll buy her a blazer.
Maybe they already did buy her a blazer.
Yeah.
Nah, we're just
Good
kidding.
one, Joe.
That's I'm just kidding. That's just men's
Speaking
basketball.
of Blazers,
Pearl colored.
Bruce Pearl was in the house.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was.
Oh.
I got to see him
Did ya?
Friday night. I went to the West High game
Yeah.
against Cedar Rapids Jeff. And, of course, the West High boys have 2 former Hawkeye players' sons playing for them. Brad Lohaus' son, Wyatt, is the starting guard, And Michael Morgan's son, Jeremy, is the 6'6" forward on that team. Both of them underclassmen. But anyway, I got to sit right behind the West High bench and really enjoyed that. Bergie was himself, as you would expect. Yeah. Well, when his team is down 20-10 at halftime, you're gonna expect to hear an earful from him.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
You believe
Yeah,
that?
Jeff
20 to
did the
10,
slow
yeah.
down and difficult. But in the crowd, just at the end of the bench, standing in the corner, was Brad Lohaus and Michael Morgan. And then one by one, you see, here's Eddie Horton, here's Kevin Gamble, and then the next thing you know, here comes Bruce Pearl.
Yeah.
And right away, my kid, my 10-year-old boy, and his buddy that I brought with us, they knew right away that was Bruce Pearl, which really surprised me.
Yeah.
And they went over to get an autograph from all of them. And Bruce Pearl signs his name, Go Vols.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
And I don't get that.
Well, that could be just conditioned response.
Could be. Could be. So, there was quite a buzz. But you know what? The City High...
Well, they gave him the go.
City High is going to host West High, both boys and girls. The boys Friday night. The girls...
Okay.
I'm sorry.
They don't try to play them both on the
No.
same night at City High anymore.
The boys are going to be at City High on Friday night. The girls will be there Saturday night at City to figure their season for the girls.
What kind
Yeah.
of crowd does City High get?
Oh, it'll be full for the
is that
for
right?
the West.
You better get there way
Because
early.
West will bring a lot of people. And there'll be a lot of City High people.
Well,
too.
City High's
Sure.
got a
But
good
that's-
team.
The girls are real good.
Yeah.
City High's gym is probably the smallest in the conference.
It's so tiny.
Is that right?
Didn't seem tiny when it was built, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is.
It's tiny. The girls, City High girls, are what, 9th in the state.
Good team.
So playoffs are starting. If you want, I really recommend you get out to see the West boys and girls play before it's all over.
Say, how is Virginia Johnson doing?
That's a good question
She's,
for Pat.
she's having concussion issues again. The Jan Jensen, after the Indiana game, when she was only on the court for less than a minute, and she let 2 Indiana players blow by her, said she was still experiencing some headache issues, and she's going through concussion tests again this week.
So we
it's
won't
too
see her
bad.
tomorrow night, will we?
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's going to hurt.
It's not impossible. You may see Callie Hansen some. I think she's getting close.
Good. I like her.
She'll give a few minutes relief off the bench if she can get up and down the court.
She's a
Lisa
tough
leads
nut.
a little good luck.
Yeah, she
Oh,
deserves
she
it.
does.
Hey, real quickly, we got just a couple minutes left.
I'm sorry.
No, not at all. The Regina boys and girls. Girls are 18-2. Boys are 16. I'm sorry. Boys are 17-4. Girls are 18-2. Neither team is ranked. They are both going to host districts. Get out there and check them out. They're 2 very good teams. High school wrestling districts start this weekend.
Yeah.
So, boy, there's lots
Busy
going
time.
on. We're out of time.
Virginia's got Brennan back.
Yeah, they got him back. A lot of good things happen. It's an exciting time of year. I wish we had more time to talk about it. We appreciate you watching This Opinion every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We replay the show every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on Channel 18. If you can't catch it there, you can always find it on my Facebook page. I'm Dirk Keller on behalf of Bob Boyd, Pat White, and Earl Murphy, and not to mention Joe Murphy behind the camera. We always want to thank Supple's Flowers for the pretty arrangements we get, and we want to thank you for tuning in every week. We appreciate your comments. Until next week, remember this: either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks!
Amen.